the client do? We mentioned the client is involved on behalf of the user who's trying to read or write some files and obtain the files. So the client retrieves a list of data nodes on which to place the replica of a block. The client writes the block to the first data node, and the first data node forwards the data to the next node in the pipeline. When all the replicas are written, the client moves on to write on the next block in the file. So the client is trying to access the file has multiple pieces or blocks, and this is the pipeline that it follows in order to access them. So when the first one is created, then we make 3 copies of it. We write the blocks to the first data node, and then that particular data node forwards it to the next node that stores these copies. When all the copies are written, the client can go to the next block of the data. So as I mentioned, if we place too much traffic on the network between these nodes, that can really kill this system and make it very slow. So we do try to balance in order to avoid network congestion. So there is a rebalancer that is command line tools that can go and check on how the network is performing and if there is any congestion anywhere, and try to use the congested areas less and direct the traffic to other racks and data nodes that contain the same blocks but that are not congested at that time. So we mentioned we can either back up this master name node, or we have another replica of it, which is called the secondary name node. Other than sitting there and waiting for the main node to fail, it does some other things like copies transaction logs from the main node to temporary directory, merges the file system image and transaction log into another temporary directory. So it does do some other functions other than just sitting and waiting there. We do have a command line interface for the distributed file system. There are some simple commands that I'm going to show in a separate file. So, for example, these are Linux commands, because this is a Linux machine, so it does have a command line interface, and these are some commands that we can run. Make directory, for example. So Hadoop dfs dash make mkdir make directory. So it's going to create a directory called fulldir. Cat, that is for copying files into the directories. It can remove directory if we don't want this directory. So these are some commands for the user, and there's many other commands, and I'm going to show you a list of commands specific to the HDFS system that are different from the regular Linux commands. Other commands for administrator. He wants to have a report of all the jobs that are running, or it wants to release some data node, so you can do that. There is a web interface other than the command interface for the administrator that can show all the jobs that are running, when they started, how long did they take, and all of this information. Now, what is the overall health of the cluster?